I've met everybody, but I'm just going to introduce myself again. It's Amy Balowitz. I'm with Amy Balowitz Homes. I live in Bolton. I've been in Bolton, I was just telling them, almost 20 years, which is crazy to me. I've been a realtor for 8 years, so I'm with Keller Williams in their Concord office, but I live in Bolton. But I'm affiliated with Concord. I like the office because it's, we also have offices in Cambridge and Lexington, and we just got one in Arlington. So it's a really large network of agents. And a lot of times buyers from the Boston area are moving out here because they can get more space and land and more for their money. So it's been a really good network to be involved in. So I have 4 kids. 17, 15, and twins that are 13, so 4 teenagers. So I do these seminars as often as I can to get out of the house. And I've just a little bit, to let you know my experience. Last year I did 20 million in sales volume. I'm in the top 5% of agents in the New England region and top 100 in all of Keller Williams of individual agents. So. Got experience and a lot of success. So that's all I'm going to say about me, because this is about you. I'm on a couple committees in town. So the Economic Development Committee, which tries to bring new businesses into town and support businesses that are there. So that's something I'm really passionate about. So you may get my newsletters that support businesses. I've got videos that I do supporting businesses. So that's kind of where that comes from, if you're ever wondering, like, why is she doing so much of that? And this is Jen Lemaire. She's my stager. So I have a transaction coordinator on my team, which is Tara Brown, sitting over here. I have a marketing coordinator who does all the brochures and social media and just anything marketing. She's in Florida. And Jen is the stager. And then I actually have 2 organizers. And then this is Seth with units, moving, and storage. So they were going to do a little talk about what they do and how they help people that are preparing their home to sell after we do our little thing here. So, so if you're considering to selling a home, you're wondering, what do I do to prepare my home to sell, which is why you guys are here. So the first thing that I want to emphasize is that it's really important, if you can, to contact a real estate professional as soon as you are thinking about it. And the reason for that is, we can certainly assemble a crew and get things done on your home quickly, but it's a lot more stressful for you. So especially if you've been in your home 20, 30 plus years, you've probably accumulated a lot of things. And so, sorting through those things and donating and, all the things we're going to talk about is important. Buyers are looking online before they even step home. So, making sure that your home is decluttered, closets are cleaned out, all that stuff, it takes a lot of time. So getting ahead of that is important. So that's my first advice. Number 2 is meeting then in person for a listing consultation. So, we'll talk on the phone. I'll ask you questions, any updates you've made. And that way I can get a good idea of pricing, because I like to come to your home and kind of give you a price range. Usually we don't set a price until we're getting ready to list your home, but just to give you a price range. So then we meet in person, do a tour of your home. I'll take some notes. We'll talk about your timeline. If you don't have a timeline, we'll just what's your perfect scenario? If you could wave a magic wand, when would you like to move? And then we'll work backward from there, so that at least you have some sort of target, because I find if you don't have an idea in your mind, you could just stay in your home forever. So if you want to list, is it good to have that target? And that really kind of gets you motivated to start cleaning out those closets and things like that. We will discuss marketing strategies like open houses and things like that. But again, we really won't get a marketing plan together until you're really ready to list. So the initial consult is just to really kind of talk about the process, educate you, kind of like what we're doing tonight. And And then the final thing is to talk about pricing. Pricing is super important, especially in this market. Last year, the year before, you kind of put your house on the market, any price you want, it would sell. Now buyers, higher interest rates, they're a little bit more cautious. And so homes are still selling really quickly. I do want to emphasize that because I know I've had a few people say, well, it's not a great time to sell. Well, it is. Multiple offers, lots of buyer demand. And there's just not enough inventory. So there's certainly like that supply and demand. There's I think 3 houses on the market in Bolton currently. I think like 5 in Stowe. So that's keeping prices high, and we're still seeing waiving home inspections and appraisals. So that is still happening in this market. But if a house comes on the market and it's overpriced, those are the ones they are sitting. So pricing is important. I know some of you guys may not be listing like within the next couple of months, but it is important to know the current market if you are. So what should you do to prepare your home for sale? So first, I always tell people to do is identify any repairs that you may have. It's easy to ignore problems when you've been in your house for a while. I know I've overlooked a lot of things. That you had a leaky roof back in the ice storm. I don't know how many people I go in their house are like, oh yeah, that's from that ice storm, and everybody knows what that means. And you just never did anything about it. But a buyer's going to go in and they're going to see it and they're going to say, oh, there's a leaky roof, or there's something wrong. So it's always good to kind of just do those things so that there isn't any question about what might be other things be wrong with the house. Buyers are most likely having 2 careers, young children that are moving into Bolton. The school system is a big draw. And a lot of times they don't have the time to do repairs and updates. So, that's another reason why doing as much as you can up front really is helpful to help draw buyers to your home. I have a lot of questions about if you have carpet, what do I do if it's old carpet? That buyers may want hardwood, that kind of thing. I always say if it's ripped carpet, then you should replace it because that's a repair. If it's just to replace the carpet to give it new carpet, then that's an upgrade. And so a repair is going to overcome buyers' objections, where upgrade is just going to maybe add value to your home. So that's kind of a good way to think about it. So then, exterior rot is something people look at. Like I said, water stains on the ceiling, windows that have lost their seal. So sometimes you see that clouding of a window. You can just go to a glass store and just replace a pane instead of a whole window. But again, it's just something that buyers see and they think, your windows are old, even though you may have replaced them 5 years ago. Another thing people ask about is a pre-inspection. So some home inspectors will come to your home and do an inspection before you sell. It's good because it gives you sort of a list to go on to repair. It's also a negative because anything that they find in that report, you then need to disclose to a buyer because now a professional has told you about things that are wrong with your house. So my rule of thumb really is, if it's something that you really want to do and because you just want to check off all the boxes, then go ahead and do it for peace of mind. But if you've taken pretty good care of your home, you've gotten your furnace, updated every year and your roof is fairly new, the things that a homeowner, maintenance things, I don't feel like it's necessary. But that's completely up to you and something that we can talk about. But it is a question I get. Decluttering is really important. A lot of us have too much stuff, and even if you're a minimalist, what we're looking at is how your home looks in a picture. Because 96% of buyers it's probably 100%, are looking online before they walk in your house. So what you may think is not much, when you're looking through a picture, they're going to see your things. So it's even more minimalist than what you think. And those are some things that Jen's going to talk about and that they can help you with if you're just overwhelmed by the amount of things you have in your house. And then staging is super important. Jen can again speak to it, but she really tries to utilize as much of the items that you have in your home so that, staging, people like think thousands of dollars, but you really can utilize a lot of what you have and just either edit or rearrange, and then just bring in accent pieces that are just going to enhance that. If it's like an old couch that you want to just toss, then she can bring things in. She's got a whole warehouse of items. So we do have that available. But it's a lot of what she does is just enhance what you have, which is why I like having her on my team. And then landscaping is important. If you're listing in winter, that's not something you can necessarily do, but especially this time of year, just a fresh coat of mulch, some new flowers to brighten up the front doorway. Those types of things just really make a buyer feel like you've upkept your home. That's what they want to feel. It doesn't have to be like perfect, but they just want to feel that you have pride and have taken care of your home. And then the fun thing is a Title V. So if you have a septic in the state of Massachusetts, you need to have a Title V inspection done on your home, and it has to pass in order to sell your home. So the Title V is good for 3 years. So if you are thinking of selling, in the next year or 2, 3, I would suggest getting that done. Because if you never know, I mean, some people say, oh, well, it's only a couple years old, or it's 50 years old. And sometimes a 50-year-old one passes with flying colors, and a newer one, not necessarily may fail, but there may be a distribution box that needs to be replaced or something, and you just want to get ahead of it. So if you know for sure you're going to sell, I would suggest getting that done. And the other thing Bolton requires now is a water test. But that needs to be within, I think it's a year, if not 2. But I don't know if you like the PFAS, which are from like chemicals. I think it was like from fire, plastic, or there was a lot of it found in this area. And so now the EPA is really cracking down on well water being tested. I have water testing kits. So, I really wouldn't suggest maybe doing that until you're ready to list your home, and then I can collect a sample and take it to a lab. So that's fairly simple, but just something to be aware of that's going to need to be done. So that's what I have. So really preparing your home is Jen's wheelhouse here. So after we decide to work together, so say you're ready to list, we sign a contract, the next step would be for Jen to come in. And she and I will walk your home, and she'll provide you with a comprehensive report, room by room, of what you need to do. And now I'm going to let you go. Oh, I did want to mention, if anybody is moving to an over 55 community, I have a booklet that has all the over 55 communities in the area. It tells you if they're attached, detached, what their HOA fees and all that kind of stuff. So I have this up here if you want to look through it, but if you really want it in your, so that you can have one to keep, I can email it to you.
All right, so I'm Jen. Thanks for the introduction. I have been working with Amy for about 5.5 years now. And I sort of stumbled into staging a little bit later in my life. I was educated as an occupational therapist, and I did that for a decade. And then I stayed home with my kids when they were little. And then I started doing interior decorating for friends and family, and it kind of grew. And then I started staging my house and then my brother's house, and I fell in love with the process of getting homes ready for the market and started my own business. And 5 years later, I have employees and a warehouse, and it's become its own beast altogether. So today, I'm going to talk to you about preparing your home to sell. I'm going to reiterate some of the points that Amy made because they're just so important in the price that your home eventually sells for. So we're going to talk about what is staging, because people don't know a lot of the times. Can you see it okay? I was hoping it'd be a little darker, but we're too far into spring. Staging goals and statistics, staging strategies, and then we get a little bit of before and after photos for you. So you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I'm sure that you've heard this quote before, and it is so important in real estate. I hear all the time, homeowners saying, oh, well, we'll just see how it does, and then if it doesn't sell, then we might do some of the suggestions. But I'm telling you, once a seller has seen your house and it doesn't look like what they want, they're gone. They're not coming back around to see your house a second time if you've put it together as a second go. So the main goals of staging are first to highlight the square footage. You want your home to feel as large as possible, and the perception of space can be changed quite a bit by how much furniture you have in a room and where the furniture is put in the room. The second goal is to help potential buyers envision their furniture and decor in the house. And this we do by depersonalizing. I'm sure you've heard that term before. Depersonalizing. So this is if you have very bright colors or bold patterns or crazy art around your house, buyers are going to be having a very hard time envisioning their items in your house because they're so distracted by your things. Their goal is to reduce distractions for buyers by decluttering your house. Again, you don't want them paying attention to your items. You want them looking at the room itself, at the architecture. So decluttering, I use the term very broadly. I feel like clutter has such a negative connotation. But it really is, if your home is lived in and decorated, you have a lot of personal items out, and those are the things that we want to put away so that your buyer can see themselves in your house instead of seeing you in your house. And the real goal of staging is to get your home sold for the most money in the least amount of time. Is it effective? Because it's a lot of work, I'm not going to lie. It would be a lot easier if you could just take pictures and call it a day. So why would you stage? The National Association of Realtors said the average return on investment for staging is 400%. There are very few things that you can do to your house that has this return on investment for you. It's just money well invested in your home. The Real Estate Staging Association puts out a national statistics report yearly, and they are seeing that staged homes sell 88% less time. Right now, with a hot market, that's less impressive because it's like 2 days versus 1 day. So that's not a real big difference in your life. But on average, staged homes sell for 8 to 20% more. So that is a lot of cash in your pocket for the next step of your life, and that is really why you want to stage your house. I use staging as a very broad umbrella. It's not just like HGTV where they come in and they remove everything from the house and they bring in these pretty new furniture, and I do that sometimes. But the average homeowner can't do that. They're still living in their house. They have to live there while they're on the market, and they just can't afford to do that. So most of my clients, I'm coming in and I'm doing a consultation like Amy said. The earlier the consultation, the better, because I'm giving you a report of all the things that you can do to update your house. I have people and I go in today and they'll say our pictures are Tuesday. I'm like, oh good, we can do 3 things because you have a weekend to get your house ready for sale. I have some people who come to me a year ahead of time and we make a laundry list of things that they can do to increase their home's value, and they just check it off month by month and they know that they're totally ready by the time they're hitting the market. So we're going to look at a few before and afters so I can sort of talk to you about all the different strategies that I'm using as a stager. When I come into your house, it doesn't need to be clean. It doesn't need to be market ready. Nobody lives like that. It's like a pretend land where you don't have many possessions.
This is before, the after.
So I don't expect it to be picked up. My house is not that clean, and I don't really have any judgment for what your house is going to look like. And staging and decorating are 2 almost opposite ends of the same spectrum. When you decorate, you want your house to feel as personal to you and your tastes and your family as possible. And when you stage, you want to do the opposite of that. You want to make it a blank slate for your most likely buyer. So depending on your house, I am going to know who your buyers are. Are they a young family? Are they people that want to age in place? Like, who is the demographic that is buying your house? And what are they looking for in a home? And how can we make your home as close to that as possible? So one of the things you hear all the time is curb appeal. This is one of the first houses that Amy and I did together.
This was in Worcester on Forest Avenue, up like by Assumption College. It's a really cool craftsman.
It was very cool craftsman, but if you saw this house, you'd probably think, ooh, it doesn't look like it's been well maintained. And buyers take as many visual cues as they can to infer how much home maintenance you're doing on a regular basis. So anything that says maybe they're not taking care of the house, maybe they don't have the time, maybe they don't have the money, maybe they don't have the energy, anything that says that to them, especially the first thing they see when they pull up, can make a huge difference in how they feel about your house. So these homeowners did some landscaping. They added some mulch, they trimmed the bushes, and they added red flowers. And it looks so much more expensive. Like, this is the perception change that you can make when you simply do a little bit of maintenance. I mean, it looks like a ton, but really they trimmed bushes, they added mulch, and they added red flowers. So one of the things I'm also looking at is highlighting your architecture. So when you put your furniture in your house, you're probably not thinking, I hope I can get a really great photograph of my fireplace, right? Like, who does that with their furniture? I certainly didn't do it when I designed my own house, but it's something that I'm thinking about as soon as I see any of your rooms, because the photography is so important. So I'm looking at rearranging furniture a lot of the time so that we can get the best photography angles of your selling features. And I'm also looking at how does your furniture and accessories move buyers' eyes around the room to make them look at what you want them to look at. This was a luxury home. You would never know. This is the master bedroom. So everything that's going on in this room is in the bottom half of this space. But really what I want people to be looking at is the super high ceiling. And so we staged. This was what I call an occupied stage. So this is where the homeowners are still living there. I'm using as much of their furniture as I can, and I'm just bringing in key pieces to make the room feel more expensive and to get buyers to look at where I want them to look. So you can see that I took out the carpets, took out the rugs. I traded their very busy bedspread for a white quilt, and I added art and lighter side tables just to make the room feel a little bit larger, but I very specifically put the art in this shape so that it mimicked the shape of the ceiling, and that's where I want buyers to look. Enhancing perceived condition. So one of the little tidbits that I learned when I started doing my training as a stager was that empty houses sell for the least amount of money. And I was floored by that information, because who would have, like, you'd think like, oh, it's a blank slate, isn't that what we want to do? But when you have an empty house, people cannot emotionally connect with a room that looks like this, right? Like, this does not feel like home to anybody. It's very hard for buyers to get a sense of scale in the photographs, because, like, is this room 12 by 12 or 20 by 20? I have no idea. And when they're seeing the rooms in person, there's nothing for their eyes to look at except for imperfections. So their eyes will go to any stains on the carpet, any blemishes in the wall, cracks in the ceiling. That's exactly what they're going to look at. So I brought in furniture and lighting to help lighten and brighten the space. This was a vacant home. It was, somebody had used it as an apartment. They were renting it. The renters left. They painted and they wanted to sell it. So that's why it's all brand new furniture. But this is not the norm that I'm bringing in this much furniture. But you can see what a difference it makes in the space. So this is the deferred maintenance slide. So enhancing perceived condition. Again, if you have any of these things, like the electrical plates that have broken and fallen off and you've duct taped it back on, vents that haven't been cleaned in a while, ceiling fans that need to be dusted off. I see this all the time, a little bit of mold in bathrooms because the kids never used the ceiling fan when they were taking a shower. I see that in probably 30 to 50% of the houses that I go into. So we really want to make sure that those issues are taken care of, because this will make the biggest ding in what your house sells for. Deferred maintenance can be up to 20% of your house value. If you let things go, it can really make a huge difference. Decluttering and depersonalizing, the 2Ds. You hear these all the time, right? Ad nauseum, declutter, depersonalize. So this is a very typical family home that I go into. There's toys everywhere. These people liked a lot of very bright colors. There's a zillion pictures of their kids on the wall. The furniture is all oriented around the television. It's mismatched. Like, this is pretty much every house I go into, right? So this was a family that moved out. They wanted to paint every room. They didn't want to live there. They were building a house, I think. So they moved into the house they were building, and they gave me carte blanche. I picked the paint colors, and I brought in furniture, and this was the after. So any family would be able to come in and see their furniture in this space. And not only that, but now you can actually see the fireplace. The tile was this amazingly beautiful slate tile that just you couldn't see with all of the yellow. Your eyes were drawn to the wrong thing in the room. So now with the fireplace being the darkest item in the space, everybody's eyes go straight to it. This is another great example of decluttering. This was another luxury house that I went into, and this homeowner liked her tchotchkes. Like, she liked it. Every room looked like this. She just had, every surface was covered in decor. And I worked with them. I developed a really good strategy for them to what to take out, what to keep, and how to rearrange the furniture. And this is a great example of all those things. So one of my rules of thumb is if it's smaller than a grapefruit, it needs to get packed. Because in a wide angle photo, it ends up looking like too many little things. The wide angles get a huge amount of your room, more than your eye can see, and it looks very busy and it distracts your buyers. No more than 3 things on any given surface. And you want to not block your windows, and you want to rearrange your furniture so that your eyes can see to your focal points. So this was the after. That was the biggest TV cabinet I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't, like, it was the biggest. It was probably 15, 16 feet wide. It was huge. They were blocking 5 acres of pasture out the back window because they like to watch TV. And they did not want to move that thing because it was 16 feet wide. But we talked a lot about what are the selling features of your home, and do you want your buyers to be able to see it, right? Like, what is your goal with selling your house? So they did move it, and look how much brighter this room looks. Like, it's night and day. We also rearranged their furniture so they didn't have that sofa straight in the front of the room where you couldn't see to the back of the room. We did edit out a lot of perimeter furniture on this, and that's one of my go-to. People have a lot of perimeter furniture around a room or all of their rooms, especially if they've lived in their house for a while. You tend to collect small pieces of furniture, and then they just start habitating all of the rooms. Another decluttering, so this is a master bedroom, and again, this is super typical, right? Like a ton of dressers. They had a little work from home space. And I really encourage sellers to make their master bedrooms feel like a luxury retreat, because that's what most buyers aspire to, right? Like, most buyers aren't thinking, I'd love to have a romantic room where I also work sometimes. So we found a space in their partially finished basement that Dad went to work. He brought his desk down there, and we pared down how many clothes they were using at any given time. So we took out all of their winter clothes and their fall clothes that they didn't need because this was a summer sale, and just pared down a little bit so that we didn't need as many dressers. And that's the after. It looks a million times more expensive than the first one. So Furniture placement is one of the things that I'm looking at. Like I said, we want to make sure that we have clear visual openness to any of your selling features, but where you place your furniture in your room can make a huge difference on how big it feels. So again, this is a typical room. It's really dark. This wall color was a dark, dark brown. And you don't always need to paint it. This was a secondary bedroom, so I didn't have them paint this space because it could be a boys' room, it could be a home office. Not every space needs to get a fresh coat of light paint. I did have them take the drapes down because it was making the room even darker than it needed to be. I had them take out most of the perimeter furniture that was happening in this space, and I had them move the bed. And the reason being is that when you walk in a door, and the bed is right in front of you, you can't see to the rest of the room, and it makes it feel smaller. Additionally, in a photo, it does really funky things with the size of items, and when they're close to where you're taking the picture from, they look gigantic. This exact bed, placed in the rear corner of this room, looks like a totally different space and a totally different bed, and all we did was flip it to the opposite corner. So simple things like this was totally free, right? Like, they were getting rid of most of the stuff in the space. They didn't even paint. They just moved their furniture around and decluttered. So this one is another luxury house that I did in Carlisle. It was one of the coolest mid-century modern houses I've ever seen. And this house also has the perimeter furniture problem, and also dark paint colors. This room happened to be eggplant. And this is one of the spaces where I did say, hey, let's go with a lighter paint color because not many buyers want a purple living room. So we took out all the perimeter furniture, painted it white, and brought in lighter color furniture because this room had very little natural light and it needed a lot of lightening up. So those are the things that I do when I'm coming into your house. I'm not there to judge your personal style. I tell people all the time, if I were to put my house on the market, I would take out a ton of color because I like color. You can tell by my shoes. I'm a fan of bright colors. So I would pare that down. I would rearrange my furniture. I would take out my kids' pictures. It doesn't mean that you didn't decorate it well. It just means that it's not staged. So don't reduce the price, increase the appeal. Is really words of wisdom because the average price reduction for a house is 2.9%. So if your house is listing for $750,000 and you didn't present it well enough to sell in the first month or two, that's $20,000 of the first price reduction. So if you can invest some money up front into getting your house put together and you don't have to get to the point where you're taking a price reduction, it's really money well spent and invested in the first place. Plus, you get to sell your house faster, which is better for everyone involved. Do you guys?
Like, homes never sell for a fixed price. There's always a range of value based on what you do to prepare it for sale. And so our job is just to get you to that highest end of that range. So, this is great, and this is, we go in and we do this, but what if you have a lot of things and you're like, okay, well, this is great, but what do I do? So I'm going to introduce you over here, and they're going to talk a little bit about strategies to get rid of your things.
Okay, so my name's Candy.
I'm Kristen.
I wanted to start with telling you guys about a commercial I saw a long time ago. And it was a home improvement commercial, and it started off with saying, someday you'll paint that fence, someday you'll clean out that garage, someday you'll fix that bathroom. And then the narrator came in and said, someday sounds busy. And I think about it with this kind of stuff because life does get busy, and all those someday, like especially with home organization, really does get put off. And so after Jen comes in and tells you to declutter, sometimes it can be, not sometimes, every time it's overwhelming. And so I wanted to share the process that we do every time. If you needed our help, or if you wanted to do it alone, you could follow the same process. And so we use the SPACE method, SPACE. So if you were to picture your guys' pantry, the first thing we would do when we came in there is we would take everything out and sort it cans by cans, baking by baking stuff, cooking stuff together. And then with your help, we would purge it. We'd get rid of expired food or those foods that you had really good intentions, like you thought it would taste good, it doesn't. We get rid of all that. So that's sort, purge. The next step is we assign a home. So we're gonna put your baking stuff by baking stuff, cooking, cereals, snacks, and then we go in and we measure and we grab the containers. We decide what's your style, what do you want it to look like, what's functional for you, and we shop for the containers complimentary. And then the E is equalize. And so that is how to maintain it. And that's where we provide labels so that anybody can see like, oh, this is where, snacks go. And so everything we do, it doesn't matter if it's the craziest looking basement or garage or a tiny little pantry or closet, we are doing the same method. We're sorting, purging, assigning a home, containerizing, and then equalizing. And so we do that over and over. And that's why when we walk into a space, I'm not overwhelmed because I know exactly what to do. I've done it hundreds of times. And so Kristen's going to tell you a little bit more.
So, and we have some cards too that have some of those ideas that Candy talked about. So if you don't need to take notes, we've got these for you here with some of our information. And so I just wanted to kind of speak to the why. So as I said, I'm Kristen and I have 5 daughters. So organization is really, which is why I have white hair too, by the way. This is natural white hair that they gave me. And organization is so important to the function of our home. And we realized that there are really 6 reasons why it's so important to hire a professional organizer, especially if you're selling your home, but of course just in your day-to-day life as well. And the major thing is when you declutter your space, you really declutter your mind as well. It frees up, it makes you feel a more sense of calm when you walk in. There's kind of a serenity, and that's what we're really going for, is to create a space for you that functions the best way and creates that sense of calm when you walk in, and especially for a buyer, which is a definite plus. And really you have 2 choices. You can either keep it or you can let it go. But there's different ways to do that, and we walk through that with you, because I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you go through and you go, you know what, today I'm going to tackle my master closet. It's going to happen today, right? You pull everything out and you look out on your bed and you just go, oh, it's my mother's, quilt that she gave me when I was 5, and then you're stuck and it's 4 hours later and it's time to make dinner. And it's really, really overwhelming, especially when you're moving. There's such a decision fatigue. So we're really in there to kind of help you hold your hand and go, hey, this is really valuable and important and sentimental. We can help you wrap it for long-term storage, or we can help you display it so it's not sitting in your closet. So that's what we're there to help you do. And it really reveals that beautiful home that can be hiding under your stuff. And also, as Jen and Amy mentioned, sometimes the clutter can make buyers think that you're hiding something, like a repair, which when I recently moved to the area, and a few times I would move something aside, like a rug, and there was a real major issue there, And so I think it's really important. Also, we help you save time and money. And I think that is important because when you're investing in these additional services like staging and professional organizing, it's an upfront cost. But in the end, as Jen was talking about, it does increase the value of your home. Because when you think about the square footage of a moving truck, and often they're about $6 to $10 a square foot. So if we can get rid of some of that square footage, we're gonna save you money on the back end. And then when you're taking things out, you're gonna have less stuff to deal with, which is a nice thing to streamline the process on the other end. We also help you find things that you've misplaced. Some of our funny things is when we walk into a kitchen and there's 8 can openers. And it's not because they need 8 can openers, it's because they don't have a spot for it. It doesn't have a home. And so that, someone goes out to buy another can opener and then you end up with 8. And then you feel bad throwing them away, right? So we're there to go, hey, we can donate these, or we know a family that could use some can openers, right? So that's what they're there to help you do. The third reason why you should hire us is that we can create customized systems for you. So this is not a one-size-fits-all. We don't come in and just box up all your stuff and get rid of it. We're there to go, hey, you're a collector. We have a friend who collects vintage soda bottles, and they were hiding in a box. We got them up on the wall so that he can enjoy them. Okay, that's our job, is to help you really understand what do you value. and to help you make sure that your possessions, that you're really owning them instead of them owning you, and that you're able to find that function in your space. Something that, I tell this story about my mom. I think this is why I got into organization. We call her a classy hoarder, because when you walk in the house, it looks really nice, but if you open anything, it's just full. Every wall is like full. And so she was moving overseas, and she begged me and my sister to come out and help her. And I go into her bathroom vanity, and I pull up in the drawer, and there's 20 mascaras. And I'm like, Mom, do we need 20 mascaras? And she's like, but you run them under hot water and you refresh them. I was like, Mom, this is not something you want to pay to pack away, right? So we're helping you, all those things that you rebuy or that you think, I can use that one more time, we're there to help you let it go in a really gentle way. And if you just want those 20 mascaras, we'll help you find a space for it too. We have the expertise and experience with people and products, so you're not having to reinvent the wheel, right? So if you need, in fact, I'm the handy woman of our crew. So if we need to create more storage, if that's really the issue, I'm there to help you do that. Or if we need to take something down, I'm there to help you do that. Or I hang pictures. It sounds like that's Jen's wheelhouse too. But I can help with all of those things, and we know who has the experience we can leverage. We have a bunch of heavy things we have to pull out of your basement. My grandmother had 50 years of food storage, and we had to lug that up. So we have a crew that can help do that and figure out who's getting this wonderful storage of wheat. And the last two, we are a no judgment zone. So we've seen a lot of homes. I've been in homes where I literally used a shovel. We don't do that as much anymore, but we've seen it all. We are not there to judge or to make you feel anxious. I think a lot of people feel anxious with strangers in their home, which is very understandable. And we're there to help you feel comfortable and to go through with no judgment. And I think sometimes it's difficult to ask for help, to ask a friend or a neighbor, because you feel like you have to explain yourself, like, oh, I hurt my back last week, and so that's why my garage normally doesn't look like this. You don't have to say that to us. We're like, we get it. We totally get it. And we've seen worse, I promise. It's always been worse. So we were there with no judgment. And we can help see the potential of the space and help you transform it. So my last reason is that we have this fresh perspective. So sometimes when you've been staring at a space for so long, it's so hard to see what to do. And it again leads to that decision overwhelm. So we're there to see with fresh eyes and go, hey, what if we do it this way, and help you kind of refine the function in your space. So like I said, we have some cards that are here on the table with Amy's other materials. It's got our info if you would like to contact us. We'd be super happy to help you, and excited for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. So thanks.
Kristen and Cami, let me just ask if people have some things and they want to, like, where do you have, like, a lot of people don't want to just throw something away, they want to donate it. Like, where do you recommend that people do that?
Absolutely. We actually have a lot of resources that way. We work with several churches in the community. We also work with, there's a lot of thrifting stores that we think are of, higher reputation that we like. We also have, I've worked a lot with refugees and immigrants, and so we have those resources as well, where we're actually giving them, to people that will utilize them. I think a lot of times too, when you've been in your home a long time and you have kids and you think, my kids are going to use all this, and really there are often people who will utilize them better and need the tools or need the kitchen appliances that your kids maybe already have, right?
And sometimes, like, if I think a specific mom in the community would want this toy, I'll get permission from the person. Do you mind if I give it to so-and-so? And kind of connect different moms together. One other thing I wanted to add, and I don't think this will happen with Amy, but I moved from Oregon, and one time my realtor gave me 7 minutes to get ready. I have a lot of little kids. But when you are organized, it's possible. Had I not been organized years ago, that would have been a big ask, and that would not have gone well. So it really does. Getting your things in order allows you to live in your home and show your home, which is probably one of the most unfun things you have to do. Yeah.
But if you get it all ready, it's going to sell really quick.
Yes.
Short amount of time.
Yes.
But everything will have a home. You'll know where it goes. And even my kids, this is how I stay organized. People come in and goes, your house is so clean. It's picked up. It's not clean. It's actually very dusty. But it's picked up because my kids know where everything goes, because everything has a home. So that's what we're here to help you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Seth Lebo. I'm the owner of a company called Units Moving and Portable Storage. So we're a portable storage company. We offer, you've seen our competitors, Pods. I don't like to talk about them much, but we offer a similar product, but I would say a superior product. But whenever you're selling your house, there's one thing that always has to happen, and that's eventually you have to leave that house. One way or another, you're not going to stay there anymore. If Amy's selling your house, which will be successful, you will be gone, you will be moving, and you'll need some way to do that. So that's where we come in. And we really can come in anywhere along the process. When you're starting the process early on, Jen comes to your house and says, you got to get rid of this, 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 and this. We're going to bring in some new stuff. And then they come in and organize all your stuff. You're always going to end up with some stuff you're going to hopefully get rid of when you're decluttering. Hopefully you can donate it. Hopefully, some stuff maybe throw away or whatever. But then there might be some extra stuff that you need to store. You need to put somewhere. It might be large pieces, that giant cabinet, 16-foot wide cabinet or whatever, that has to leave the house. That's where we can come in and we can help out there. So we can bring a container to your house. We can drop it off on your driveway, but we can also put it on the grass to the side around the corner of the house, things like that. We can get it into really tight spaces or really large spaces, it doesn't matter. And you can put all of the extra stuff that you want, not the throwaway stuff. Don't put that in my container. You don't need to keep it in my container, but the stuff you are going to keep, you want for your next house, put it in the container, and it can either sit there and wait while you're selling your house, or if you don't like it, if it's blocking your whole driveway, we can actually pick it back up and store it for you in our facility, which is just 10 minutes down the road here in Littleton. We keep it indoors for you, but if it's sitting at your property or at mine, it's weather tight, critter tight, so you don't have to worry about the mice crawling in and eating your furniture or your clothes or things like that. The water is not going to damage it. It's sitting out in the rain, no problem. It stays dry. So that's the early stage when you're first trying to put your house on the market. But then let's say you don't need me then, and now it's just time to move. You could also use us for that as well. Drop off a container to your house. We can get you in contact with people to load it for you so you don't have to do the heavy lifting. And when you're done and ready, the house closes, ready to move to the next one, we pick it up, we can bring it to your new house for you. And that can be, by the way, here, Massachusetts, Southern New Hampshire, Maine, anywhere kind of in the New England area, or if you're moving to Florida, which a lot of people do, or California, or anywhere out of, around the country, we also have a long distance program. So we can drop off a container that will end up in those other states as well for you. So through all of that, when you're ready to move, you can do that. But let's say you're sold your first house, but your new house is not ready yet. You can't get into your new house. You're building a house. I think you mentioned an example of building a new house. You've got a 2-day gap between the two, or a 2-week gap, or a 6-month gap. That's where we can also bring it back and store your stuff for you inside our facility. It stays heated in the winter and all of that. So all of those options are available when you're moving. You have the time to do it. You don't need to rush. On the last day, I sold my house today, and everyone get everything out quick, and then move to the new house, or something falls through with the house at the last second. There's no pressure on time when you use something like portable storage. So yes.
Are there any items that you don't take?
Well, I guess I would tell you, you're officially not allowed to put propane tanks, fuel, flammable items, explosives, children.
What about a motorcycle?
Officially, no. If you drain the fuel out of it, it's fine. Yeah.
That's what we have.
You have,
My husband restores them.
oh, nice. Yeah.
The tanks are drained.
If they're drained, it's not a problem at all. Yeah. As long as you don't want to enclose flammable things in a box that might heat up and stuff like that. So it's for that reason. But no, you put it in. And frankly, I don't see what goes in the container. So, as long as you do it safely and it doesn't end up exploding anywhere along the way, we're good to go. But yeah, so anything like that. And then when you're done, we drop it off at your new house. You get as much time as you need to do it. It's all monthly. That's why I'm saying that. Rush again, and we pick it up when it's empty. We take it back. The other thing we can do is longer term storage, just to mention that, let's say you're downsizing to a community that you don't have enough space in your new place as you used to have. If there's just stuff you just can't either organize away and not need anymore or whatever, then you can store it with us, longer term as well, obviously. Another, just to mention it, we can also be a resource for you, right? So if you need help with a dumpster or folks to load your stuff for you or whatever, you can always ask us and we can always refer you. Obviously, Amy's a great resource for that. I think all of us have connections in different ways and for different parts of the process, but always happy to help as well.
It's usually going to be like on the side of the driveway or in the driveway in front of a garage bay. So it's really not. I mean, if it's affecting the photographs, like we try not to have it photographed, but otherwise buyers know you're moving, and honestly they don't mind at all because it's like, okay, at least they're getting their stuff out of here, So yeah, it's not at all.
Yeah, there is. It's a little bit more expensive to store it in our facility than it is at your house. Transportation charges change a little bit here and there, that kind of thing. But yeah, I see both sides of it. Sometimes people just keep the container at their house and doesn't cause any problems. And sometimes either because of who they're working with, or maybe the property's just tight. There's only one car driveway. You just can't keep a container there while you're also trying to live there or whatever. That's a reason to move it off property as well. But we're flexible too. We can take it away, bring it back, whatever you need to do as well.
So I guess in conclusion, I just want to reiterate what he kind of said, and is that we have a whole team of professionals. So obviously staging and organizing, but also a painter. For signing up, I think you got a 10% off painting with my Highline Painting, Dobby. I mean, you can use whoever you want, but he's just some guy, a guy I've worked with a long time. He's got a good crew. Landscapers. I don't know if you know Eddie from the from the dump. Oh my gosh, he does so many things for me. He's like a handyman, and he's got a whole crew that'll just lift anything. So just anything you need, I'm a resource for you. So, whether, when you make the decision, I'd love to help you. But even if you just have questions, I'm always available if you want to reach out. So please feel free to do that. Well, it depends. Like, we don't just go in and say you got to paint everything. It's, if it's a bold color or it's got a lot of wear and tear, that type of thing we typically do recommend. But you don't necessarily have to paint every room.
It depends on the room because different rooms have a different level of importance. So if it's like the foyer and it's the first room they're walking into, or if it's the master bedroom, it's more important than like a kid's bedroom. And so every single space has different things that you need to do to it. So I can't give like a general rule of thumb, like every living room can't be orange because it depends on the house, it depends on the buyer. 95% of the time, if I'm recommending somebody paint, I pick a very light neutral color, like light beige or light gray, so that it'll go with pretty much anybody's interior design, because those colors are just, the neutral colors go with anything. I'm not gonna typically pick a green or a blue to paint your house. And that's sort of a determination that we make as to like, what's going on in your house and is it a priority or it is not a priority. Sometimes the walls are in pretty decent condition and the color isn't so bold that it's gonna reduce your price point for your house. But if I think buyers are going to come in and offer $10,000 less because the house isn't painted in colors that are appealing. Right. So in those cases, I'm going to recommend that you paint because it's going to have a positive return of investment for you.
It's real important to remember that buyers are looking online first and foremost. So what our goal is with a lot of this is to be sure that it's showcased online best, so that the way that your house is going to sell for the most amount of money is by getting the most buyers through your door with the hope that you're going to get multiple offers. And that's price point, but it's also how it's presented online. So again, it's a case-by-case basis, but if we really try not to make you do something if you don't need to do it. We really are cognizant of that, and there's a lot of times people think they need to do something and they don't. So that's another good reason to have, once you're kind of making that decision to move, to have somebody come in on the early end so that you're not doing things that you don't need to do. So typically, like if there's a lot of wear and tear to your hardwood floors, we say, but if it's a carpet, yeah, you can speak, but usually I've been around you enough that you're going to say a new buyer is going to probably put a carpet in that same spot, and so it'll just get covered. But if it's like wide pine floors, we have a couple houses right now that they're just beautiful, and they refinished them because they're just a really strong selling point of the house, and so we recommended that. But it wasn't carpet; it was just because there was wear and tear. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
the
typical.
bleaching is pretty much every house.
If you're
that
you
we
refinish
see.
it, and then they're gonna, a carpet goes down again. So yeah, we wouldn't recommend that you do that in that instance.
I think about your spaces, I've said this a couple times, in tiers of importance. Unfinished spaces are the bottom tier. So buyers are really looking at, is it dry? Is it dirty? Is it creepy? Right? Like that's what they care about for a storage space. Can they safely store their stuff there? Is it going to creep them out when they go down there? So if you can get it, make sure it's dry, right? Like any water damage to a storage space is a huge red flag for buyers because they're not going to think that they can safely store their items there. And then give it a good sweep out and make sure your light bulbs are bright enough and you're pretty much good. Storing your items in there is totally fine. It's much better to get it out of the more important spaces if you've got extra furniture, all the perimeter furniture that I was talking about. Even if every perimeter piece you have in your house migrates to your garage or your basement, it's fine. Again, it tells people that you're starting to move and pack and be getting ready to move out of the house. So it's not going to affect your price point.
Buyers expect it.
Yeah. Great question, and I get this one quite a bit because people mostly have personal photos on their walls or a lot of art on their walls. So my rule of thumb is you need to use your art strategically. So it's to make buyers attend to what you want them to look at. So again, over a fireplace or by a window because you want to draw their attention to it, or to fill in very large blank walls. So, most people in this area live in a colonial and they've got their dining room that's got like the one long wall. We're going to want to put a big piece on that, whether it be a mirror or a piece of art, so that the room doesn't feel sterile. Like if you've taken everything out, it's not going to be warm and inviting. There is a fine line between decluttered and empty. So I am there. The staging recommendations that I make get you to the point where you're in that sweet spot. I just want people, I say black mulch because when you say mulch, a lot of my older clients put in bright orange mulch, and that's just not appealing to the younger buyer.
Okay, so you're okay with my natural stuff.
Yes, yeah, we just don't want that orange mulch that
Orange
was
walls,
popular.
orange mulch.
Yeah, orange is out, people.
Sorry if you like the color orange. I know, right?
You're out of here. That's what's tricky when you're selling your house. It's on my list of 5 things that you shouldn't have in your house when you're on the market. And that can be hard if you've got kitties or puppies at home. But the more you can minimize the pet items that people see, the better. You don't want it like cat trees in every room if we can avoid it. Because for some buyers, it turns them off, right? They start to worry about what's underneath the carpet, like have there been stains, if things get wet, is it gonna smell? So you just don't wanna give them any reason to be worried about your house. So I say take those things out. But for staging items, I'm not going to bring in area rugs or upholstered pieces if you have pets, obviously, because they'll get ruined. But I will bring in pillows because I give you like contractor bags to throw the pillows in, to like tuck them into a closet when you're not in a show. I bring in lamps, I bring in art, anything that like can easily wipe down, I'm happy to bring in for rentals. It depends on the room. So I try to avoid using a rug because hardwoods are a selling feature. But like in a living room, it feels really weird if you don't have a rug, because a lot of times the furniture's floating in the middle of the room, and it just feels weird without a rug there. Yeah, so I almost always have a rug in a living room. Dining rooms are 50-50, depending on the color of the wood and the color of the table, and do they play well without a rug in between them. But I pretty much take rugs out of any bedroom, any office, if we can
If
get
you've
away
got
with it.
hardwood,
Yeah,
we like
got
to
hardwood.
showcase the hardwood.
So yes, she got a report. So I go,
As did Pam.
yeah, I don't think I really covered this very well, but I come out, I see your house, and then we talk a lot about the whys of staging so that you understand why I'm making the recommendations that I do. And then I go home and I write a report for you, and it is a bullet list for every room. So some people even print out every page and put it, like they tape it up to that room because it's living room and then like a list of 10 things to do so that they can like check it off. My type A people really like the check boxes. And then I also put in a priority list so that you can pare down from this 20-page document what's going to be the best bang for your buck. And it just really helps focus what you need to do to make sure your home is going to sell for the most amount of money, because for most of us, it's our biggest investment. And so if you can make 8 to 20% more on that, it can just be hugely impactful.